Great. And as people join us, we'll welcome them, but we may as well get started since you all have been prompt and on time. So really great to see everyone. This is meeting number 3 of Pillar 4, which is focused on creating workforce synergy. And I think we might be the only pillar that's added a third meeting in prior to the July 9 summit, because our work is just so robust. And so you'll see that today. But want to thank all of you for making time for this third meeting. We're excited to share with you the North Star, which you'll see is named the generational commitment. So we're going to share that with you all today since that piece of work fell under this committee. And then we're also going to seek your input for our pillar presentation at the July 9 Synergy Summit. So here's what we've got for today. It'll be a short and sweet meeting. After welcoming, of course, we're going to focus half of our meeting on that generational commitment North Star statement and really sort of take you through the journey that a project team has been on to get to this place where we feel really confident and excited about this generational commitment that will engage people statewide in our workforce work. And I do want to just frame for folks that, as you'll see in Matt's presentation, there has been a lot of work. Some of you have been involved. And today, what you're seeing is the statement that has been fully vetted. So we're not necessarily wordsmithing today. That has been done over and over. Lots of great work went into it. But we do want to engage you in a discussion around the North Star statement or the generational commitment statement, and really get your guidance on some of the data metrics that we want to be tracking to support that. And then we're going to shift gears midway through and focus on what we as a group will present at the July 9 Synergy Summit. And if it's not already on your calendar, although it should be, please make sure that you plan to be there. It's Wednesday, July 9th. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Honolulu Community College. And that information and invitation has gone out by Banette's team. So that's the agenda for today. And just to sort of reflect and remind ourselves, there are 4 pillar catalyst teams, all focused on really identifying priorities and actions to support the state unified plan, the state workforce unified plan. And we are Pillar 4, and you can see what the various Pillar Catalyst teams have been charged with. And again, you can read the bullets yourself, but we're talking about prioritization, alignment, action, goals, data. And then all of this will be submitted for as final recommendations to the Workforce Development Council. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt for a good part of the meeting.
Thanks, Kale, for kicking us off. I put these up here just to remind us where we started, right? So these were the objectives that were outlined in the final version, or I guess the version of the State Unified Plan that was submitted to the Department of Labor last year. And so really, for those of you who've been participating in all 3 of these conversations, you're really familiar with these. But these were the starting points, right? And really the work we've been charged with is to elevate and update and prioritize, right? And so that's really what this group has come together to do. What's exciting about our group is that I think we're one of the only groups where there's a sub-working group that's already actually doing a project prior to making those recommendations, which is that, North Star goal for Hawaii under this idea of developing a unified workforce vision and strategy. And so just wanted to put these up here. I'm not going to read through all of them. We'll revisit them at the end. But as Kayla mentioned at the beginning, really the first thing we want to spend some time on today is really sharing and reminding this group what that sub-team, of which I'm recognizing many people in the room have been a part of. So but it's just nice to revisit kind of how we got to where we are. And so we're going to share that goal and share that process, and then really open it up for some conversation because we really want this group to feel comfortable with what's being shared at the Workforce Synergy Summit and be able to answer questions if people ask. And so first we'll start when we're thinking about that generational, sorry, this is, I'm forgetting my order of my slides. So this group has met 3 times, right? our full team, right? We're not talking about the North Star goal just yet. We first met in March, and we first prioritized looking at those objectives on the previous slide, and we're able to do that exercise in Padlet to be able to elevate and prioritize things. And so the key themes from that first conversation we had were that we really did have this appetite to think big for our North Star goal. And we also elevated the need of data to really be able to support that work, be that better labor market data, better data sharing between agencies, or just a unified way data dashboard to be able to recognize if we're making progress towards our goal. The second time this Pillar Catalyst team met was in May, and we did an activity, right, where we really dug into the education to career pipeline and mapped a lot of the existing initiatives. And some of the key themes from that conversation were, we did share in that conversation that the North Star goal had been kind of pivoted towards a generational commitment with values-based goal that really resonates with residents and families. And then through that activity, we were able to lift up the need for better work-based learning metrics. Um, you know, we had a great conversation around system access and the role of navigators, both existing efforts as well as what might be the gaps that might be needed to help learners throughout our state better, access job quality jobs. And then we talked a little bit about what a dashboard might look like. So today, as I said, we're going to share the draft generational commitment. This is our third meeting, and then talk a little bit about the Synergy Summit. So now I'm going to talk about the North Star goal and how we got here. And so the North Star working group first met in November, and we had representatives from many state agencies. And in that first conversation, really, because we had all of the agencies at the table, we really wanted to be able to identify what workforce goals did each already have, but what was that common commitment that we could identify. And we recognized that living wage job creation, pathway alignment, work-based learning, and ensuring equity and access were things that all of these agencies had in common. In December, we had that full Workforce Synergy Summit, and we utilized that larger group to really identify those design principles that we then utilize and were kind of our North Star for crafting the North Star goal. And those three design principles were that the goal should be people first and really about ensuring that people can remain rooted in Hawaii. It should be clear, measurable, and memorable. And it should be built specifically to align stakeholders and to generate action. So clearly with these, it makes sense why this is part of our, Catalyst team that's really about that workforce synergy, right? Aligning effort to generate action. Then in April, the group met and we shared data, and we really used that conversation so that data could shape what would become kind of a Hawaii specific approach to creating a North Star goal. We learned about what other states have done, and looking at the unique situations that workers and learners in Hawaii faced, we recognized that our goal must be multidimensional, tying together education reform to improve completion rates amongst our learners, economic development to be able to grow jobs and reduce the cost of living, and structural change that really brings wages in our state in line with what it actually takes to live in Hawaii. Then the group met in May, and we kind of further aligned on some themes. And those themes were that we really want to be deliberate about our audience, that while we do want to speak to policymakers and people who can get behind this goal, that our generational commitment should really resonate with residents and families, not just workforce insiders. And so that's really where this theme of shifting from a North Star goal to a generational commitment first came about. We also recognize that we really need to be deliberate with this generational commitment about the scope of work, that it is workforce, right? We know that it's very much tangled with cost of living and housing, but we want to be clear about the things that this working group and this goal and commitment can address. And so that's workforce specifically. We had came up with kind of a way to think and talk about this goal because we recognized we were trying to describe everything and we had like almost a two-paragraph description of what our goal was. And so we came up with this framework that we'll share in a second to identify an umbrella goal that sort of states our intention, but then that we would use kind of impact areas with measurable milestones to really further hone in that goal without having to necessarily name kind of a more complex goal all in one sentence. And then finally, the North Star Goal group met in June, and we were able to put together a visual, right? This umbrella goal, it sits above four impact areas, and then core metrics fit within each of these impact areas. And then we also share kind of a visual Venn diagram that illustrates the interdependence of the impact areas. That sounds really abstract, and so I think this is the right time that we're very excited to share with this working group for your all's reflection. We're going to walk through the umbrella goal, have a little bit of a discussion, talk about the impact areas, have a little bit of a discussion, share some of the metrics and discuss, and then share that Venn diagram. So for the next 15 minutes, let's dive into this together as a group. And so here's what we were calling that umbrella goal, right? This overarching intention of what we really are committing to. And so we describe it as Hawaii's generational commitment that by 2045, all people of Hawaii will have a path to a career that enables them to learn, work, and thrive in Hawaii and contribute to a vibrant local economy that's grounded in community values. So I'll just let folks sit with that for a second if you're seeing this for the first time and read it for yourself.
And Matt,
So, oh
before we
yeah, go
get
ahead.
into the discussion, I just wanted to add a little bit of context or insight about some of the discussions that led us to arrive at this. The first area of discussion was time frame. And so 2045 felt like a reasonable amount of time to accomplish all that this encompasses, but it's also not too far down the road. And so it really is a generation. And so that's where we landed on 45. Then we also labored over all people of Hawaii. At one point, it was Hawaii's young people. So we were focused on that, but then we realized that that was really just a segment of the workforce. And then we focused on Kama'aina, but we realized that that didn't include Hawaii residents who had moved away, which we all know represents a very important part of our potential workforce, having Kama'aina return. And so all people of Hawaii just felt like the right umbrella term to use. And then path to a career, that's another area that we spoke at length about. We wanted to be inclusive of the pathway work that is happening within our secondary and post-secondary education system. And then learn, work, and thrive really is sort of resonating with a lot of us for the moniker for this generational commitment. So learn, work, and thrive really is that continuum that our Hawaii folks find themselves on. So it's inclusive of the education system, workforce development, and employers. And then thrive is the ultimate goal that we all want for folks. And so learn, work, and thrive came from that. And then contributing to a vibrant local economy grounded in community values. We really challenged ourselves to use as few words as possible, but there was consensus that these were components that needed to be included and represented in the generational commitment. And so at one point, we were trying to articulate what the values were that we wanted to include, but we opted to just speak broadly about values and community values and vibrant local economy as well. So hopefully that provides a little bit of framing and context for some of the discussions that took place. And then I know we're going to seek your input and have a little bit of a discussion now. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from folks, whether you've been part of this conversation or this is the first time you're seeing it. I've got some potential discussion questions, but really, we can doesn't have to be this formal that we go through all of these. Would really, you know, love to hear from folks on the call. How does this resonate?
Hey
Hi,
guys.
this is
Oh,
Leslie. I'm really sorry I'm
go
late,
ahead, Leslie.
but it really resonates with me because quite frankly, it encapsulates so many things that make up a thriving economy. So 2045 is our goal for the clean energy, Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, right? 100% renewable. It has the values in it of CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy that we've worked on. It has MEDB's value statement in it. So, a little different verbiage, but it all says kind of the same thing with a vibrant local economy with shared prosperity for all. So I like it a lot. Thank you. I know how long wordsmithing takes, so thank you for your commitment to that. I think you've done a beautiful job.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hey, Leslie, I second that. It's Nicolette. Really love this statement that's come out, everybody. Awesome work. And it's funny because when I think back on that first meeting that we had, when we were talking about the North Star goal, thriving was actually this concept that I walked away with. So I'm so happy to see that that is, kind of the ultimate commitment that we're making. And that the educational piece, the employment work piece, it's all really beautifully presented in this statement, and also building in the community values. I think that is, one of the things that makes Hawaii unique is always having our community values at heart. So thanks everyone for the work that you did, and I'm 100% behind this. Thank you.
Matt, may I say a few?
Oh, please.
Yeah. What I love about this part is that it's an umbrella, so it can underneath can be covered all the various workforce stakeholders. So whether you're in the academia, whether you're a private sector, whether you're um, a public agency, you can find something here that you can work on. And in fact, as Matt will later on unfold the measurements and the Venn diagram, you'll see what I mean where our uh, stakeholders, our workforce agencies, and those that are laboring in this space can continue to put forth their own um, objectives without losing sight of that big overarching goal.
Yeah. Bennett, thanks for underscoring that, because that was really front and center the entire time the group was working on this. We did not want yet another goal statement. And Leslie, I know you can appreciate this. So this is meant to be intentionally an umbrella that all the various agencies and entities can feel like their work falls within, and their work is in support of.
And I don't think we need to necessarily discuss this last question, but I think it's just something to think about as I talk about the metrics and the impact themes on the next couple of slides. I think the more we got into this idea of a commitment versus a goal, and what does that really mean and how is it different, right? Is that with the commitment, we don't necessarily know how we're going to get there, but we're agreeing where we want to go and we're committed to finding a solution. And so I think when we think about how each of our organizations play into this, and to kind of what Annette was saying, that we each have a role, really be thinking, to yourself, what would need to be true, or what supports would we as a system need, right, to work differently? What would it really look like to get to this goal? And I think that curiosity is what's really powerful and exciting about this goal. So with that, we'll go on to the next layer, which is thinking. These are what we're calling kind of the impact areas, right? And we're going to have on the next slide, we'll get into more details. We're kind of layering in one layer at a time. These are the components of the goal, right? And in order to reach this commitment, we really want to see change in each of these impact areas. And so The first is work-based learning infrastructure and access. And this is really being able to measure, do our systems support equitable access to talent development and labor market pathways? This is really the learn portion of that learn, work, and thrive. In the work section, we have economic resilience and opportunity. Are we creating viable and resilient future-facing jobs? And then the thrive portion is really looking at measures of underemployment and job quality, because we've identified through our data analysis that these are areas where we currently have a lot of challenges. We have the highest underemployment rate of any state in the country. And we know from some of the work that the Funders Collaborative has done is that Hawaii has a very unique and great kind of local definition of job quality. And we want to be able to come up with good measurements to be able to say, how many good jobs do we have right now? And are we seeing this over time? And are we able to measure people's access over time so that, we can say our jobs in Hawaii enabling people to thrive? And then finally, the fourth bucket is really, when we accomplish these three things, what we hope to unlock is this ability for folks who are already here to be retained, folks who've left for the continent for school and jobs to be able to return, and in general for people just to feel a sense of belonging. And so, we want to be able to answer this question: do people believe that they can build a future here? Because a lot of the research we've heard, that's a big challenge, right? Regardless of whether the system is improving, if people's perception of the system isn't changing and we aren't changing what we're telling our kids, then it really takes all of these layers. And so these are kind of the four impact buckets. So would love to hear kind of thoughts and reflections on these. And I think we may have shared these at the last meeting. So just put a couple of discussion questions up there. Do these feel like kind of the right building blocks to kind of be the scaffolding of this commitment? And if they do, is there one that feels the most urgent or the most actionable?
Hey Matt, it's Marshall.
Hey, Marshall.
As we've gone through these and look at these blocks, the one block that always keeps popping out for me is underemployment and job quality. Are the jobs in Hawaii enabling people to thrive? I think this is such an actionable item as we just look at developing our current workforce development programs and future ones. That is really just going to be kind of a key to how we focus our initiatives. And when I think about even my daughters, it's what jobs are they going to have when they graduate that are going to allow them to thrive here in Hawaii. So this one really speaks loudly to me, and I really feel like, what can we do to really start addressing this one right away?
Thank you for sharing that. And maybe this is something we could talk about when we're planning what we want to talk about the summit. But one thing that came to mind is I know, in order to unlock a lot of the WIOA funding with our eligible training provider list, I can't remember which agency is responsible. Maybe it's DBET actually identifying kind of those key sectors, right? Those key jobs that we can cover our training programs with. And maybe it's as simple as, to what you were saying, Marshall, being able to add some level of underemployment and job quality and, to our definition of how we identify what those jobs are, right? And making sure that the methodology really does include something that identifies jobs that are going to allow people to thrive.
Are you showing the Venn diagram after this?
I am, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts on these? Right.
So it's not set in stone, folks, but we're thinking, again, not wedded to the idea, but learn, work, and thrive would be the short, I guess, PR, if slogan, if need be.
All right. So with that, tried to have one without the discussion questions, but I guess I didn't do that. So this is kind of the visual we're coming along with, right? With this idea of, there are going to be metrics for learning, for working, for thriving, but the overlap acknowledges, right, just how deeply interrelated these are. And then at the center, right, the union of, if we can create a system where folks can learn, work, and thrive, that's really where this word belonging comes forward, right? Which is both being able to remain and to return, in the sense that there's a job for everyone that allows them to stay here and be a part of that, vibrant economy. Any thoughts or reactions to this aspect of the goal?
I'll add just a little context, Matt, and that is that it was a really organic process for this to come to fruition, because we were trying to embed learn, work, and thrive and belong. And I think, Matt, you were the one who pointed out to us that belong really is in the center of the Venn diagram. And so a bunch of light bulbs went off, and the group, while we were working on this, just felt like the project had come full circle when we arrived at this. So wanted to share that.
Let me because I come from also the tourism, just to let everybody know that in I would say airports, anything to do with aviation. So any employee working at a certain airline, they need to recertify because of the action of TSA, being vigilant with the people around. So they always need to be updated with the information, with security, the communication, and it's confidential too. Yeah, only so there's employees that cannot hold a job because they can't comprehend or reading. And why do they have to do this many times? So that's educating individuals with that. In order, they don't have to be certified in the job, but like the basic, but they have to be abreast of what's going around and who do the channels who they communicate with. They got to understand. It's just what I know about the airlines.
Yeah. And Adele, that's a good reminder that our learn bucket has to be comprehensive enough to include upskilling and reskilling, in addition to secondary, post-secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you for that. All right, and then the final layer of this, and we kind of wanted to layer it so we didn't hit you with this slide all at once. And this is what we will be sharing at the Synergy Summit. Is these are the kind of the leading metrics that'll allow us to start to baseline and understand kind of where are we as a state, as a system, in being able to answer these questions, and how might we see that improve and over the next few years. And we've really, in coming up with this first list of metrics, really tried to ground it in things because, again, we started right with that first slide. We had many agencies at the table. Different agencies already have workforce goals, already have metrics in which they're measuring things. And so how can we to this point of this umbrella goal, to reiterate everybody's kind of contributions to this goal, be able to make sure that at least, one metric from each of these agencies shows up. And so that this commitment really is a way to organize and align a lot of the existing work. And then when you get kind of to either the third or the fourth bullet point, starting to understand, is there a need for an additional metric, something that nobody's measuring yet, that we may not have on day one, but might be something that we want to be able to measure in the future. So I won't read all of these, but just kind of as an example, right? Things like, work-based learning completions, credential attainment, those are things that there are already goals around, right? And we have the ability to measure. But some of the ones down kind of further to the bottom, culturally centered, economy metrics, right? Things that really allow us to say, is the economy growing in a way that's grounded in community values? That's not something we have a formula for, but by putting this on the list and having this, generational commitment, we're committing to being able to start to measure that and understand that. Because those are the types of metrics that really are going to shift this and create that sense of belonging that maybe lacks in traditional economic measures, right? That might just be something like GDP. And so there's a couple of ways that this can play out over the next few months. When we talk to the National Governors Association about what other states have done, sometimes when they put this big goal out, they actually have kind of sub goals, right? Big numbers. And so, that's one approach we could take, but I think that's something that we won't know by July, but I think will shape up over the next few months as we speak with the governor and other agencies. Like, if we're able to baseline some of these metrics, do we want to have, a 10-year goal around, the number of young adults who are able to move back to Hawaii, for example, just kind of throwing that out there. Do we want to make sure that we're able to quantify and create X number of living wage jobs over the next 5 years, right? And so you can see how setting some of these shorter term milestones around some of these submetrics will be those building blocks to allow us to know and not have to wait till 2045 to say, did we get there or not, right? We'll be able to measure, identify new strategies that might need to be taken, and course correct if there are areas where we need to make bigger investments in the short run.
And I'd add, Matt, that work is going to take place over the next probably, 9 to 12 months to really hone in on what the specific metrics are. We did sort of caution ourselves to not choose too many metrics to measure and not overwhelm ourselves with measurables. And we got some good guidance from NGA on this, and they applauded us for being this action oriented and this data driven. But they did, kind of caution us from choosing too many metrics to track on. But we can envision a dashboard with this, and it's there. It just needs to be developed.
This also, and just to add to what you were saying, Gala, this provides us, I guess, a pathway to developing data where maybe none exists and identifying where those gaps are. I think preliminarily, Matt has done a good job in identifying what data is currently available, but there are some which needs further vetting. And even from Pillar 3 yesterday at their meeting yesterday, they were able to identify a couple of surveys that they felt like if we, only have the resources for this, would be able to arrive at this conclusion. And so I think that's one of the things that is wonderful about this concept is that with this, we're able to identify the data sources and how we can then measure our effectiveness.
Yeah. And that will be a shared responsibility, right, Bennett? So each of these metrics will have an organization or a couple of organizations' names next to it because they've already identified the value of that data. They're already tracking on it. And so again, keeping in sort of the theme of this being an umbrella, the data itself is a shared responsibility too.
That's right.
I'll give you an example, if I may. So one of the things that we were talking about, I think it might have been Pillar 1, where they would like to have data on how many good jobs are there that offer benefits, good benefits, healthcare or 401k. So I think there is some data that is being called by Hawaii Employers Council. So preliminarily, that may be where it would lie, but at the end of the day, it can be housed here and maybe add some additional layer so that then that really would validate how we have opportunities for our young people because they are good jobs that not just have a living wage, but particularly have good benefits. That's an example, is what I'm talking about.
That's a great example. And I think that distinction, we named it kind of early in the design process, right? Moving from, the way that agencies traditionally measure the impact of their agency's work, right? Which is important. It's one of the pillars of knowing if we're doing a good job or not, but actually shifting towards measuring how well the system as a whole, right, supports people, in Hawaii. And so being able to raise the need for surveys and to better understand these aspects is a large part of that commitment, right? We're committing to measuring it and we're committing to taking action based on what that data tells us.
By the way, we have invited the Chief State Information Officer, Christine Sakuda, who will be at the convening the summit. And we hope to be able to at least inform her, educate her on this goals and this data goals. Because at the end of the day, I think what we would like to see is to have this institutionalized. So it's not just our working groups data needs, it's really a state need, right? So that then they can incorporate it into their own plans. And then once it's institutionalized, it becomes everybody's goal, not just this group's goal.
And time check, Matt, we should probably reserve
Yeah.
time for the second part.
Yeah, let's move on to that part then. If there aren't any further questions, so thank you all for being a part of that. We just wanted to make sure and share what the North Star team has come up with, since it really does fall under one of our main recommendations. And so, with the last 20 minutes, we do want to kind of just informally workshop. What are the main recommendations that this pillar group wants to share at the Synergy Summit. Kayala and I will be representing and sharing what's on the slide, but really want to poll this room. And I'll just say, I think our group is a little bit unique in the sense that we've already done a lot of the work, right? And just looking at the agenda for the Synergy Summit, I think one of our recommendations can be to endorse the generational North Star goal, but we will not have shared it with the group at that point in time. And so I think we won't address it directly, but I think we can think about what are the things that we want to lift up that really support, this big goal that the room is we can foreshadow a little bit, right? But without getting into the details.
I wonder if there's a case to be made for Pillar 4 to just focus on the generational commitment. You know, Matt and I are bringing this to the group to really workshop what our pillar update could be. But the vast majority of our work has focused on North Star. And so the silence leads me to believe that there really is no obvious answer. You know, there is a data component that maybe we could focus on, but I feel like that's not specific to Pillar 4, Bennett. Yeah.
So if you remember how the day is going to unfold, you would still need to have a report from Pillar 4 because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 presenting their, initiatives. And then there is a North Star portion. So
Mhm.
you may still need to come up with 10 minutes worth of talking points and as far as what you think can create the synergy.
Yeah.
So this is Leslie, and I agree. I think that Pillar 4, you have 10 minutes of content to talk about how you got to that North Star and the elements that you flagged that were integral components, foundational to achieving that North Star in 2045. Which also, I love that date. I identify the Clean Energy Initiative, but it's also the P20 Council Sustainability date too. So I love that alignment. But in Pillar 1, as Bennett was saying, we talked about having a sidebar summit, I guess a sub-summit for lack of a better name, to bring all the folks that collect data, all the research organizations from UHERO to DBED to, the Hawaii Employment Council. MEDB has new Lightcast predictive modeling. All of us together to see what we are tracking, how we're tracking, to look at, as you said, Kayla, the shared ownership of the metrics and tracking. So if we see what's already being done, who has capabilities, and then how we can modify that to meet what comes out of the July meeting, I think maybe that is, a secondary. Let's commit to this and the North Star and get, our excitement and enthusiasm and passion about that. And then, I'm not dismissing metrics, they're critical, but they maybe come next.
Mhm.
My 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, just wondering, it is pillar 4 of 4 pillars. And if we did kind of reorder it so that it was the first pillar to present, I'm just spitballing here, but like if the first presentation, the first 10 minutes was about this, the North Star, and kind of giving how we landed there, and then the other 3 pillars. I mean, we're pillar 1, by the way, but not pillar 3.
Sorry.
No, it's
No,
okay.
but yesterday there was a Pillar 3 meeting
Oh,
too.
there was? Okay, well,
Yes,
so
and they talked about data as well.
Mhm.
yeah.
Seems to
So
be a running narrative. Yeah.
so I'm just saying, like, a one way to look at it is, if we keep it at the end, then it's kind of this nice kind of encapsulates everything in this North Star goal thing. Or if we put it at the front end and then like it led all of the following pillars to talk like kind of sets the stage. Then everything else after that, the alignment with economic development, the educational and training pathways, and I think the third one was the diversity and equity and inclusion and
Right.
those things. So
Eliminating barriers. Yeah.
you're right, eliminating barriers. So I think it was just an idea. I thought,
Yeah. Well, let's
maybe
take it
part of the
under
challenge is
advisement. Yeah, I'm
if we
not
keep it
the
at the
only.
end,
Yeah.
then maybe,
We have
yeah, I could see
a
why
little
you'd need to
task
want
force,
more.
but I'll take it under advisement to the group, and I guess we'll soon find out what the final agenda would be.
But I do like what Leslie
Yeah.
suggested at the beginning. Being the 4th, we could start to transition. We could, But I think in that other meeting, we were thinking about the agenda that there was the separate section just for the North Star, but maybe we slide some of the how we got here and let our group tee that up. And without naming the North Star, right? And we could kind of do the slides that I did up until where we actually name it, right?
Although I think this group, and again, I'm not wedded either way, but this group came up with solid other initiatives that were part of the Mentimeter, the ranking. You remember the prioritizing? And I think can't remember what those were, but those can be the the foundation for your presentation as a thought. Okay, just again, we can finesse it later on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, Matt, we can take a look at that, at our original slides, and it will probably be a little bit of both, perhaps, Bennett, where we end with the tee up of North Star, because that project has been another component of this pillar. Even the Mentimeter or the Padlet that we did at our last meeting, where we began an inventory of activities that are already out in the community in support of this workforce goal.
That's right.
I think that visual would be pretty strong to show, Matt.
Yeah. I think in the two Padlets we did create some pretty good visuals.
Yeah.
So I think that's right. Yeah, we could do
But
5 minutes kind of teeing up what we learned and how it supports kind of this call to action for better workforce synergy towards a unified goal.
Great.
How it informed kind of the design process of what's important. Okay.
I think we have the group's input. We have what we need to now prepare for July 9th. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to comment on our Hawaiian words. The only hesitation, Kelly, about that is learn, work, and thrive is the thing. And so if it becomes a'o, hana, ola, then we lose a little bit of that quick.
No, you're right. And actually, I was reading too fast because I was thinking about the Venn diagram
Yeah,
and the words in the Venn diagram. Like, oh, if they were both visual, then maybe that could be transposed. But I totally hear what you're saying.
yeah. But anyone opposed to adding the Hawaiian equivalent? Okay. And we'll need to get someone to weigh in and make sure that my rudimentary Hawaiian is right.
No, that's what I was gonna say is so kind of a secondary benefit of using the Olelo Hawaii there is just even the word a'o is not just learn, it's also to teach. So like there's a directional, you require directional with the word a'o to define it, whether it's learn or teach. Hana is a similar in that it's not just a verb, it's also a noun. So and so there's the nice thing about Olelo Hawaii is that there's layers of meaning. So I mean, yeah, but I would agree, Kala, that I'm not the fluent, Olelo Hawaii guy. So, but I know people. I could talk to people about that
Love it.
idea. I'd be
Perfect.
happy to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
This is brilliant, Gala. I love the idea of having Hawaiian at the bottom.
Yeah. And we're going to have to engage graphic artists and others to really come up with the visual. But, for the sake of July 9, I think we're ready for prime time.
I learned a new word, belong, pili.
Yeah, yeah. And our deliverable will be by Future of Work on September 20. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
24.
24. That is when we need to be ready with our polished presentation so that the governor can really put forth this and we can all stand back proudly.
Perfect.
Good. Well, I think that might conclude our agenda. We do have space, however, if anyone would like to share anything or provide any updates or ask questions. Otherwise, we can adjourn early.
Just for the benefit of this group, just wanted to share that on July 2nd, a small group of people will be meeting and briefing the senior policy team at the governor's office on the North Star, because at the end of the day, we want their blessings. So, and if there are any corrections or modifications that need to be done. But that briefing is, again, a preview of what we're hoping to unveil at the July 9th Synergy Summit. But
Mhm.
all in good time, we want to touch bases so that then, yeah, far be it for it to be at the tail end, and then by then, so I think we're doing and approaching it in a very deliberate manner, and I think appropriately for.
Great.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the hard work that went into this. And Kayla Hella, I can't even talk. Kayla Hella is our upcoming fundraiser, which I'm immersed in. Kayla, it is so nice to see you. We miss you. Thank you for not totally letting go of still having your heart in the right place for workforce. Thanks for contributing
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Amen and amen to that.
Nice to be with the family. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
Bye.